This Pride Month, we bring you the CityNews special, Rainbow Families, Queer Pathways to Parenthood. They say it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to build a family. With many pathways now open to more people building families that look more diverse. Some are called rainbow families, families composed or parented by members of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. Nearly 1.3 million people aged 15 and older identify as 2S LGBTQIA+ in Canada. That's about 4.4% of the country's population. In BC, data shows over 235,000 people identify as 2S LGBTQIA+, about 5.9% of British Columbians, making it the province with the largest queer population by proportion, while the city of Vancouver claims home to the largest queer community in Western Canada. For many of them looking to become parents, there are various pathways available, including science. We look into the complex journey it involves, from navigating legal considerations to medical procedures. First, we share the story of one doctor who's played an important role in building rainbow families in Vancouver.
They've now got a place at the table, and they should have the same access to health care and a full life with children and all that comes with it as anyone else on planet Earth.
There are many pathways to parenthood for members of the LGBTQIA+ community, and one clinic helping create rainbow families is all of Fertility here in Vancouver.
Infertility specialist Dr. Beth Taylor has been instrumental in helping various members of the queer community on their journey to parenthood, a journey that often makes its way through this lab with the help of science.
To make a baby, you need eggs, sperm, and a uterus. And not every individual and not every couple has that, particularly in the LGBTQ community. So they often need some help.
Help that she provides by tailoring a plan specific to meet the needs of each rainbow family, designed to best fit each unique partnership.
We figure out what you need and connect you with the people that can provide that. Connect you with an egg donor. Figure out how you can find a surrogate to help you. Sort out a sperm donor, so we help kind of put all those pieces together.
Dr. Taylor is a pillar in the LGBTQIA+ community here in Vancouver, assisting around 2,000 rainbow families over the course of 17 years in the industry.
It's changed a lot socially, like what a family looks like today is different than what it did 20 years ago. It's changed a lot economically. The costs of things have gone up. It's changed a lot in the medical science part dramatically.
But the journey to parenthood doesn't come without its fair share of challenges. Dr. Taylor says the most difficult part of the job is watching patients struggle to get pregnant and overcome the red tape of regulations and barriers of what is a very costly process.
The costs are such a barrier that a lot of people either don't do it or they do riskier things like home insemination, or they do traditional surrogacy where, there's some legal and medical risks involved in those processes that I think if there were fewer barriers, they wouldn't go that risky route.
One of the families she's assisted is Sean and Lewis, who can't thank Dr. Taylor enough for the clinic's role in the birth of their daughter, Maisie.
You can tell she does this because she's passionate about it. It's not just a career or something she fell into. It's like she really wants to help people make families for themselves, which is, there's nothing like that.
The emails that come after with the baby photos, they come almost every day. We get one saying, thanks for helping us have it, and with the picture of the baby. That is the best part. People come back with their babies and show us. I think that's the best part, is the babies, yeah.
Dr. Taylor is hailed a hero by members of the LGBTQIA+ community, but the humble hero says it's important for her to make a difference and believes every family deserves the reward of bringing children into their lives.
You're helping people achieve something so important in their lives, I think that's what makes it so meaningful. To go to work and do something meaningful, that's all you can ask for.
Coming up, we bring you a heart-to-heart with one Vancouver couple about their journey to becoming parents. But first, one lawyer joins us in studio to unpack the obstacles faced by members of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community looking to build a family. The challenges of creating a rainbow family extend beyond fertility treatments, with members of the queer community navigating complex legal systems. For more on this, I'm joined in studio by Catherine Wong, a lawyer with Saltwater Law here in Vancouver. Catherine, thanks so much for joining us. Tell me about the varying experience that members of the queer community face, whether they're, gay, lesbian, polyamorous, or multi-parent families.
There's lots of different times that you would access the legal system to build a family. It's usually in tandem with medical intervention. So, for example, if someone was transitioning as a trans person, they may want to preserve their genetic material. For a lesbian couple, may require a donor sperm, or they might want to buy sperm. If they're using donor sperm from a known donor, then they would need a donor sperm agreement. Similarly with OVA, so gay men are sometimes accessing those services. And then embryo donation, and then there's surrogacy. So oftentimes I see gay men more frequently who may need a surrogate, and so you would have a surrogacy agreement in that context. There's also adoption, which I also assist people with.
You're really covering it all.
Oh,
so
yeah. I'm happy to help make families.
So how does Canada's legal system fare when it comes to navigating creating a family?
I think it actually does quite well. People are going to be involved with two areas of law. There's one act called the Assisted Human Reproduction Act, which is a federal act, and it's actually a regulatory act that determines what you can and cannot do with reproductive material and body
Right.
parts. And then there's a provincial act, which is the Family Law Act, which deals with parentage, and that's going to be from province to province who is recognized as a parent. And in British Columbia, we're actually pretty good for queer families because of the way that the laws are written. It is more challenging for polyamorous families, I would say, or families where you're contemplating more than two parents.
How does the law view and acknowledge those family situations? Can you go into that a little bit further?
Currently, the law will recognize how many parents a child can have kind of based on conception, how the child's conceived. So if a child's conceived through sexual intercourse, that child can have two parents, which is their biological parents, so the birth parent or the birth mother and its father. So it's almost like a biological imperative. If a child is conceived through assisted reproduction, that child can have up to, three parents and possibly up to five, theoretically, depending on the makeup of that family. And the requirement is that there is a pre-conception agreement.
Let's talk more about the Canada Assisted Human Reproduction Act. My understanding is it makes it illegal to pay for surrogates or for their services rather, and for donors. So many people say that this creates a barrier. Do you agree with that?
Being able to access these services, medical as well as legal, already is a financial privilege. And my concern would be being able to pay surrogates and donors would make it even more inaccessible because you'd have to have more money. Like, would it just end up costing more because the market will bear it? And there's a question for me there in terms of like, would it make it even actually more unattainable in some ways?
Yeah, almost like everyone should be able to have that fair access, and if you bring the money piece in,
Yeah,
it's
if
definitely...
it becomes driven by economics, does it make it harder as opposed to easier?
For those looking to start a family, what other kind of legal and medical considerations are there as you begin to plan for that process?
What I would say is plan for more time than you think you need. And if you're planning to use a known donor, then a lot of it is going to be about having good conversations with your donors about expectations. Making sure that you have clear expectations in terms of what's going to happen after the baby's born. We get very focused on making this baby, but people often ask me, like, why are we doing these agreements? Like, we can just check the boxes and we can just sign. Like, why do we have to have all these conversations? And I say, because at the end of the day, there's going to be this child that exists, and they're going to ask how they came to be. And if you're going to have a donor or a surrogate that's going to stay in your life, you want clarity in terms of expectations. Because if you can't agree now, it's going to be so much harder when there's a child in the play, right? And so I think it's really important to have good conversations. And in some ways, the agreement drafting process is really good for that. It actually is almost, it forces you to have the conversations to make sure you are a good fit, right?
Absolutely. So many things you might not have thought of as you're starting this process that really do need to be addressed. And so on a legal level, are there any other barriers that need to be reduced to be able to get people to that point where they are able to go and create those families?
For polyamorous families, or with kind of what I call alternative families, so not your traditional two-parent family, whether it's 4 people or 2 couples or a poly family that's 3 or 4 people, wanting to have have children and all be recognized as parents, that can really, there's currently barriers and gaps in the law preventing those families from being recognized. I'm hoping the law will change. I'm optimistic that it will, but I do think that that's a barrier and there's a gap. And I would say also beyond that then, you asked about the medical system. I think beyond that, it's actually the sociological changes that need to happen. So for example, not being recognized as a legal parent creates all kinds of barriers of access socially. So you can't have parental leave. That child can't get on your extended medical benefits plan. You can't go to a hospital and make a decision about your kid. So actually, there are lots of barriers to regular parent that you don't think about as a day-to-day parent that obviously you can't do, even though you are actually parenting that child in actual fact. There is this fiction that you're not a parent because of the way that this child was conceived. Right? So I would love to see us change the way we think as a society in terms of what a family is.
It has been so great having you here to talk about this really important topic, so thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up on Rainbow Families, Queer Pathways to Parenthood, a touching tale of love and perseverance. Vancouver locals Sean and Lewis say they bonded over a shared dream of becoming fathers, but their journey to parenthood would be long and complex.
20 years ago, the idea of A, two guys getting married, and then B, having a kid was...
Yeah, it didn't seem plausible. It was one of the reasons it took me a long time to accept my sexuality and to come out, because I really wanted to be a dad and I felt I wouldn't be able to have that.
Medical and legal help aside, becoming a parent is hardly a straightforward journey. For one couple, it took 7 years and many challenges along the way to become fathers. Sean and Lewis shared their touching tale of resilience, perseverance, and love.
It's something that I always wanted to be a dad. It was like I knew.
I did too, I think, growing up, but I think we'd also both discussed that like 20 years ago, the idea of A, two guys getting married, and then B, having a kid was...
Yeah, it didn't seem plausible. It was one of the reasons it took me a long time to accept my sexuality and to come out, because I really wanted to be a dad and I felt I wouldn't be able to have that if I was gay. So I was like, well, I can't be gay. And then eventually I just couldn't fight who I was anymore, and then found out that I could have it all.
And did you share that same dream of becoming a father?
Yeah, I think I always kind of wanted to be a dad. There was a little period there where, like I said, I didn't know if that was possible, and so I had kind of maybe compartmentalized and put it away a bit, and didn't really think that, yeah, that would ever happen one day. But then I think when I met Sean, and that was kind of the reigniting of that passion to be a father. Yeah.
So you guys decided, you wanted to be dads. Talk to me a bit about the beginning of that journey to parenthood, how the ball got rolling.
Like, we got married in 2016.
2016.
And then shortly after, our doctor, family doctor, made an appointment for us at Olive, where we met Dr.
Taylor, and she was lovely and, very, tons of information and very optimistic, which was really nice. Okay, this is possible. There may be some challenges along the way, but we can get to that final outcome. And then it was kind of the idea of, okay, how do we create embryos? And where do we look for eggs? That was kind of like a long process of sifting through all those questions and kind of finding out how our journey was kind of going to go.
The first step in their journey was finding an egg donor, and the perfect candidate for the role would be within the family, Sean's sister stepping up to support.
And it just came to me, I was like, if my sister couldn't have a baby, 100% I would do whatever I could to help her. So I was like, why is this any different? It's not. So yeah, then it was a no-brainer.
The next puzzle piece would be the hardest. Across 6 years, Sean and Louie would search for a surrogate, coming close 4 times. The couple had all but given up before a post on Facebook led to finding their surrogate.
When we found our Sarah, who's our surrogate, and at first she was kind of hesitant to know if she wanted to do it after just coming out of a surrogacy journey. Sean was like, are you okay if I continue to talk to her? And I was like, absolutely. But I was like, I need to take a little bit of a step back because it was really emotionally draining on me.
A bit more guarded.
Yeah.
What was the process like from there on? You know, did you join her at appointments?
For her ultrasounds, we drove up to Kelowna, and we were able to be in the room for the ultrasounds, which was very nice and cool. And then we had midwife appointments in Kamloops, and we tried to make it as much as we could. She wanted us to be such a part of it that she'd FaceTime us as much as she could. As soon as Maisie started kicking and things, she was like, wanted to show us. And she had earphones that she could put on her belly, so we would record messages and songs, and so that Maisie could hear us.
Talk to me about the moment that Maisie was born.
And again, we were there in the room. Louis caught her as she came out and passed her to me. It was just, there's photos and you can just see the look on my face. I'm like staring at Sarah like, what have you given us? It was just crazy. Like
Well, I think we're still kind of in disbelief that she's here, and that was like, I remember being in the delivery room and, you know, being like, oh my God, in a matter of hours, we're gonna have our daughter.
She passed her swimming class.
That was amazing.
Do you still keep in touch with your surrogate? Tell me about your ongoing relationship.
Yeah, we text almost every day still. She was just down in Vancouver last weekend. She's one of Maisie's special aunties, and that's how we're going forward with it. You had two special aunties who helped dads have you.
Are there moments where you wake up and you think, wow, we have a daughter? Like, we gotta go check on our daughter. She's sleeping, we gotta go wake her up. It must just hit you sometimes.
Almost every day there's at least a moment where it's like, oh my God, this is my daughter. And and it does when you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, what should I do today? It's like, oh right, the kid, what's she up to? Is she awake? Does she need her diaper changed?
So safe to say, you know, all the tough times and the journey that you went through to get here was worth it.
Totally. No, the love is amazing. Like,
it's one of those things where it was a 6-year slog at times, but now looking back on it, it doesn't even feel that bad of a time, and it doesn't feel like it was that hard of a journey because the reward has been just so amazing.
Coming up, Abbotsford couple Tamberlyn and Emily Pattengale shared their journey to conceiving their baby daughter after 4 cycles of IVF. For members of the queer community, the journey to becoming a parent is just as rich and diverse as the community itself. We now meet married couple Tamberlyn and Emily, who share the ups and downs in their journey to parenthood.
It was one of those things where it's like you saw it in TV or movies, and in my ideal world, I would have kids. I guess I saw it as a possibility, but I just didn't see it as something that would be accessible to me.
When Emily and Tamberlyn first met in 2016, they never wanted to be apart.
We met online, and then we met up in person, and then it was the first date that never ended because we hung out together for hours and hours.
After they got married in 2019, they decided they wanted to expand their family, thus embarking on a long and arduous journey towards motherhood. As a same-sex couple, they sought help from the Olive Fertility Center, where Emily went through multiple rounds of IUI and IVF treatments.
We ended up getting 14 embryos from our cycle, so we got really lucky to have so many. The first one, we had a chemical pregnancy. The second one just didn't work. The third one, we transferred 2 embryos and it didn't work as well. And then I ended up getting further testing and finding out that I had silent endometriosis.
It was an expensive and lonely journey, one that they kept to themselves. And after many heartbreaks came their tiny miracle.
Here's our happy girl.
A healthy baby girl finally arrived in April. They named her Juniper.
Really, until the day she was born, there was always that seed of doubt that, you know, like, this, no way, this is gonna work for us. Like, this wasn't gonna happen. Like, we're just, you know, in La La Land, and then, you know, everything's kept going, and she was there, and that's when it really hit us, like, we did it.
Despite the lack of sleep and the endless diaper changes, their love for Juniper and for each other keeps them strong.
Seeing her interact with us now, like, she's getting more alert, she smiles at us, she kind of like laughs a little bit. It's so rewarding to see a little smile.
While they are basking in the joy of newly found motherhood, being same-sex parents still proves to have its barriers.
I feel like we forget that we're different until we have moments that, like, we're reminded, oh yeah, we are different. I hope that she's brought up in a kind world and that she can always be proud of her family.
And for other couples in similar situations who may also be looking to start a family, they offer some words of advice.
You don't know what your journey is going to look like, but there's those heartbreaks along the way when, you know, something doesn't work. It can be incredibly lonely, is what I would say.
Yeah,
like you
it
suffer
feels like you're suffering
alone.
alone, but you also know that there's so many other people who are going through it.
Oh, no, you're not all right. Yes, you are.
Throughout this special, we've explored the rich and diverse experiences of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community in building a family. Each story unique and complex in its own way, shaped by the support of fertility doctors and lawyers, sperm and egg donors, surrogates, and loved ones. Still, we've only just scratched the surface of the beautiful stories found in 2S LGBTQIA+ communities. As we've heard, it truly does take a village to build a family and raise a child, and rainbow families are a reflection of that. Thank you for joining us. I'm Adrienne South, and this is City News 24/7.